All right, welcome to a very special edition of Beginner Breakdown. So special, we couldn't even invite Mike Kummer. So Mike is, he's not here right now. Let's say he's attending the reception for Fabiano Caruana. And that's the excuse we'll use for why he's not here. If you don't like that excuse, he has to go to Phoenix soonish, so he couldn't be here. All right, so today we're gonna look at the Greek gift sacrifice. So I suppose I can set it up here on the board to get a basic example going. My name is Jonathan Schrantz, and today we'll be going over the Greek gift sacrifice. So here it is in its very, very basic form. Always there's going to be more pieces on the board, and it's going to determine if white will be successful in attacking the king. So this is one of the oldest known attacks on a castled king. That involves a bishop that can sacrifice or offer itself up as a gift for the h-pawn, and then a knight, if I know how to draw arrows, that can come in quickly to g5 with a check, and in comes the queen. So white will be sacrificing material and hoping to checkmate black. For example, white offers the gift. So you almost always have to accept. When you don't accept, you're probably worse because you're at least down a pawn, but also the h-file's open. So you almost always have to accept. Though we'll see one game today where somebody did not accept, and we'll see how well that worked out. Okay, so quickly the knight comes in. Now, in this position, we gave up a piece, so we better be checkmating black. Black has two retreats that he can do, and I'll make them green so you feel safe. And then he has two advances in red because it's so scary. But often you do have to advance, and sometimes you're just up a piece because white gave up a piece after all. So normally there's 4 lines you have to calculate. Almost always the king h8 line is the easiest to refute because everyone in here sees the checkmate. All right, everybody sees it. Right. So yeah, so almost always you can't go back on the h-file because the queen is coming to the h-file with check. So that line almost never works. Now, sometimes this line doesn't work for a similar reason. White will play here anyway, even if it's not check, which means black has the extra option of trying to get his rook out of the way. So very often, I mean, it totally depends on the position here. There's not a lot of pieces on the board, so but okay. But you have to move your rook somewhere, and then white has a choice of 2 different checks. And so often it's you check here, and then sometimes you checkmate, which we'll see some examples of this in the game. Okay, this check is the king to h6 is often bad when there's a bishop on this diagonal. Here there isn't one because when there's usually discovered checks. And sometimes there's a queen here that we can take. All right, but not a white queen. But okay, but sometimes when there's a bishop on this diagonal, you can imagine moving this knight away will be check, so we can take something. Okay, and often when we play the king g6 line, the queen, now that she's unable to go to the h-file, she'll go to g4, the next most active square, and from here she'll be threatening discovered checks. So we'll see this in action in one of our first featured game of the day. So this game, and let's see, we'll look at it from black's point of view, was from the amateur and premier tournament that just took place a couple of weekends ago when we were celebrating our 7th anniversary as the chess club. So I thought it was only appropriate we do a topic about gifts because it's our anniversary. So Scott Anderson had the white pieces, and he's a 1500 player. And in the first round, he got paired with Merrick Zheng, an 800 player. So it seemed like it would be a slam dunk for Scott. But unfortunately for him, he didn't know about the Greek gift sacrifice. So he got a real shock when suddenly his king was in trouble. All right, and let's check out the game. All right. So it was the Queen's Gambit accepted. I don't know if either player really knows these lines very well, but okay, so black accepted the Gambit. White has more central pawns. So obviously most aggressive is e4. That's the most ambitious plan. Just take the center. And if we get the pawn back, then we just have a great center for no reason. Scott chose a less ambitious plan, but it's perfectly fine. He's just going to get the pawn back, and then he's going to just say, I have more central pawns, and I'll be slightly better for a long time. Any questions? No? OK. All right. So they developed their pieces kind of normally. All right, and this move makes some sense. OK, and now the first strange move of the game was played. Normally in this structure, black wants to play moves like c5 and knight to c6 and attack the center. We gave white the center, like when we took on c4 on move 2. So we better attack it. Also, usually we're going to play some combination of these moves, and we're going to put the bishop over on b7. Well, notice the bishop, we trapped him in when we played e6. So we got to be thinking of where we're going to put him. So often he belongs on the long diagonal. But definitely we need to be putting a lot of pressure in the center here. So c5 and knight c6 and even a6 are kind of automatic moves that should be played by black. But instead, all right, knight c6, which is pretty strange because now you're not going to play c5 in the near future. So you're not going to be undermining the center. This move might be OK if you ever get to play e5. But if white's careful, that should never happen. But OK, let's see. All right, white developed. And black went here. And a funny story about this, too. So one day somebody showed up for a tournament not too long ago. And we had this similar sort of thing happen in 2 blitz games we played right before the tournament started. He put his pieces right next to each other. And so I moved my pawn. He did something, like he castled. And then I forked him. And then we played again, and we switched colors, and it was like almost the same position. And I played here with the same threat. He did something, and then I forked him. And then he got so angry that he said, I'm not playing in this tournament, and he left. So, all right, so e4 makes a lot of sense here. You're threatening to fork, and you're building a center. Your bishop has a chance to get out. But all right, everybody castles, which is fine. But here, white does make a truly big strategical mistake. In this position, the move bishop d2 was played. I guess white was thinking, this is the next most logical piece I want to develop. But I asked him after the game, why didn't you put your bishop over here on g5? And do you know what he said? He said, there's a pawn in the way. Which is true, but this is how chess is. We have a problem. We want to put our bishop somewhere active, but there's a pawn in the way. So the solution here should have been really easy. You just push the pawn. And then you're threatening a fork, so black better stop you. And then you get your bishop to a good square. Instead, when you just play the move bishop d2, you're blocking your queen. The bishop isn't really doing anything here. So it was a very unfortunate move. And Scott's a dear friend. He plays at like all of our tournaments. And he just recently reached 1,500. He was 1,300 for the longest time. But lately, he started to do really well in a couple tournaments, and he got all the way up to 1,500. So it was unfortunate. Now, black could do the same thing. That's the piece you want to move. But black had the right idea. I want to play e5. Well, I want to play e5, and now my bishop can get out all the way to g4. But only if I know how to draw arrows. All right. White doesn't have to take here. He did. You probably don't have to, but taking it should be fine. Black took here. Now, I definitely wouldn't trade here as in the game. I would probably just put my bishop back. So now if you trade with me, you bring my bishop to this nice diagonal, making it a little bit harder for you to get your bishop out because I'm tickling your b pawn. But mostly, there's going to be no Greek gift sacrifice. Because anytime you play knight to g4, now I have 2 people protecting the g4 square. So that's never going to work. OK, but in the game, he took, and black took back. And now black's bishop has a lot of scope. We're attacking on the king side, the queen side. And Scott made a very mysterious move here that I didn't get. He just moved his knight back. Perhaps he's going over to the king side for defense, but OK. We have our trio of pieces that are all set up for a Greek gift. But But perhaps Scott's trying to trick him into taking the b pawn, which is also good. So you got a couple choices here. But all right, best is going in for the Greek gift. Okay, and surprisingly, Scott did not accept the gift, which is a big mistake. I'll show you the game, and then we'll look at what happens if he does decide to accept it. So here, Merrick played a move, the kind of move that I teach to a lot of people, and none of you know my rule that I teach my students, but he's already making it look bad because it's not exactly the best here. Normally when you take something inside of your opponent's territory, you can get trapped. So you want to just retreat so that you're not going to get stuck behind the territory. Too often I see people, they take stuff and then they stay in there and suddenly they lose their pieces because you're too close. Here though, black can get away with just continuing to put pieces here. And if here, a lot of moves win. You know, rerouting a queen to the H file wins. Even this move wins. If you take with the knight, you know, the king gets to go for a little walk. And yeah, that's not where your king belongs. And yeah, if you take with a pawn, we can go here. All right, so we're threatening to like go here and start the king walk again. And whenever you do this, this line will win for black, who's checking and picking up the bishop. So that actually does work better, but that was I guess hard to calculate. Going back is fine too. Black is still doing fine here. All right, f3. Scott really didn't want the knight going to g4 because with the knight on g4, the queen is coming in, and you know he's in trouble. So here black has sort of a problem. He wants to put the queen on h4, but there's a knight in the way. And surprisingly, there's 6 legal moves that the knight can make, and they all win. Every single, it doesn't matter if you go backwards, block your bishop, they all win. So he played the coolest one. Scott said, you can't put a knight on g4, and Merrick said, yes, I can. So the threat is queen to h4. So Scott should stop that. He should put a queen or a bishop on e1 to prevent that check. But instead he took. So does anybody see the mate in 3? Or at least the first move? It's mate in 3 in this position. So what should black play here?
Queen b4 is first. Queen h4.
Queen h4. All right, one move. And now this is an important decision. You have 2 checks on h2. You can go in with a queen or the bishop first, and one of them wins and one of them loses. So you got to be really careful here. So I'll give you guys a second to figure it out. All right, yeah, you want to say it?
Bishop goes in.
The bishop. Right, the queen is doing a great job preventing the white king from running away. So we go in with the bishop. All right, white has 1 move, so that was easy. Right, so we have any discovery we want. Where should we put the bishop? Yes?
On g3.
g3, exactly. Now the king will never be able to run away. So after he moves here, I hope everybody sees the checkmate, and the game ended. Scott actually resigned here, but okay, this is how the game would have finished. So that was unfortunate. Also unfortunate for Scott was he plays in the Wednesday tournament. So the Wednesday after this game, his opponent went in for a Greek gift, and Scott immediately resigned without calculating, which is a shame because he was winning. He could have just run his king around and he would have won the game. But instead he just said, oh, bishop takes h7, like I resign, and he like just left. And it's like, you really got to calculate. So let's go through this game at least and see what would have happened had Scott accepted the gift. Because we can't just be scared. Our opponent took our pawn. I must be getting checkmated. Like, oh no, you know. But you have to accept the gift, and then you need to calculate. Because after the knight comes in, we have 4 king moves. And so they all should be calculated. Because if you survive in any one of those variations, then you're up a bishop. So let's see. Of course, the king h1 line is the easiest to refute because we just check and checkmate. All right. So that's the easiest one. Also easy to refute is this one because there's a bishop on the same diagonal as the king. So we have any discovery we want. For example, check and take a queen. All right, so that's easy enough. Now the two tough ones are going back and going up. So if you go back to g1, black plays this move anyway. All right, it wasn't check, so white gets one move to find a way to prevent them. You can't move, your pawns don't work. I see a lot of people try to do this as if their king has an escape, but he doesn't have an escape. Okay, so white can move the rook, and now black has two checks, and one is better than the other. Which one do you like?
I like queen h2 check.
All right, and then the king will go here, and unfortunately, if you check, white can defend. He has a knight. Yeah, so unfortunately, white survives in this line. So here you have to actually take on f2. All right, and so the king moves over. And now there's no direct mate. We're not just checkmating white in any way. So we can win the long way. One good plan is to put this bishop here and here and threaten checkmate with the queen on g2. Unfortunate arrows. Also, bringing a rook over here to the h-file is very good. Taking a rook and sacrificing for the bishop so you can play knight takes e3, threatening queen takes g2 check is very hard to meet. So it's there's no one good right move here. There's several moves that win. So you can't play that line. Okay, so we got one option to really consider, and that's this one. And Scott should have tried to play this way. Because now if you play the normal move in a Greek gift, you might actually be a little surprised. Because, all right, white will try to kick you off the g-file so you don't have any discoveries. All right, black can say, no, I'm staying. White tries again. And okay, so the queen gets to stay on the file. But unfortunately now, the bishop unleashes an attack on the queen. And so the queen will have to leave the g-file, and white will actually survive this attack. He'll only be slightly better, though. He's down a piece, but the king is still quite exposed. Okay. Let's see. So actually, the best move here is a move that his opponent might not have considered, which is moving the knight back, attacking the bishop. And the computer wants you to give up your bishop and somehow defend your king. But if you play a human move like saving your bishop, you'll see this line is very, very similar to the king g1 line from earlier. Because it's the same exact position, except the bishop has shifted from c4 to b3. Okay. And so the same sort of stuff will happen. All right. If it wants to work. But okay, Scott obviously should have tried to play this way. He should have tried to play the king g3 line. It's so confusing. But he should have played that because then he at least had chances of surviving. You can't just say, oh, he sacrificed a bishop and then he's going to get a knight check and just be scared. You have to actually calculate. There are 4 lines that you have to calculate. Oh no, but if you survive in any one of them, then you're up a bishop. So yeah, you constantly should be on alert. All right. Now, it's funny. So the next game I wanted to show you is the same opening, except it's white that will win. And I'm not even sure who played this game. I just remember this game, and I tried to look it up for this lecture. I really thought this was a Steinitz game versus somebody. And when I tried to look it up, I couldn't find it anywhere. So hopefully you at home are in the comments telling me what game this is, because otherwise I just made it up. But this might be Steinitz, the first undisputed world champion of chess. So the very same opening was played. I think e3 was played before the knight move, but okay. So it was the same exact opening that we just saw, only this time, instead of this bad move, we replace it with another bad move. Again, black really wants to play like c5, a6, knight c6, b5, bishop b7, that sort of stuff on the queen side. This check, all right, it doesn't do too much because white wanted to put a knight on c3 anyway, so it's not obvious what the bishop's doing here, and his follow-up certainly wasn't very logical. All right, and then he played here, which is again very strange. In these lines, you should be playing for c5 and occasionally giving white a isolated queen's pawn. That's the sort of situation that usually occurs in these lines. Now you're not playing c5. The knight doesn't have c6. I don't know what this bishop's doing. So all in all, not very good play by black. And he continued in very strange style by taking this knight, which is bad for at least 4 reasons. 1, you're trading a bishop for a knight. 2, you moved the same piece 2 times to take a piece that moved once. Thirdly, you're building white's center, so that's good for white. And fourthly, you're letting this bishop come to a square that is now very, very strong for him. So it's not the best play by black. So black should castle here while he has a chance. All right, but instead he developed the knight. And now white stopped black from castling. And this is something that's a pretty important idea. When I see my students, normally they say my opponent's going to do this, and then they stop it. But for some reason, when it's castling, they don't know that they can stop it. Castling is just another move, and that's when you know that's your opponent's plan, you can stop it with the move bishop a3. You can't castle through check, so black has a problem. He can't castle. All right, so black comes up with a plan to castle. It's not a good one. He's going to take his very best piece, and he's going to maneuver it to e7 to block the bishop, and then he'll be able to castle. So because he's played poorly in the opening, he has to continue with a strange plan of taking his best piece and taking 2 moves to put it on a bad square. So, all right, but first he started by attacking the bishop. All right, so the bishop went backwards. You'll notice that with the pawns here, the bishop is unlikely to ever sacrifice or to ever do anything successful on this diagonal. So he went back to d3. And black began his plan of maneuvering a knight to e7. All right, for now, we're attacking a pawn. Hooray! So I assume you don't have to worry about your pawn, but there's no reason to give it away for free either. So, all right, he attacked, and black achieved his plan. So, all right, in this position, white advanced. Black did castle. White played e5, threatening some checks on h7, which are easily to parry. If you just play h6, then you don't get Greek gifted. But okay, he went here. So now the big question is, does bishop take h7 work? So we'll investigate. It was played, and black accepted, of course. And the knight came to g5. All right, so again, 4 moves to consider. As always, the king h8 line is very quick, right? Easy enough. All right. So we gotta look at the other lines. Here is actually a very fast mate for white as well. Again, we bring our queen to the normal square. When they go back, you bring your queen to h5. So we're threatening checkmate. All right, you have to move your rook. And now there's 2 moves. You can take here or you can check here. Both lead to mate, but one is faster. Taking the f pawn is actually slower here due to the following line. The fastest mate is check and queen h8 mate. Notice that the knight is in a pin, so the knight can't come back and do the normal defense that you would expect of him. If the knight was not in a pin, then of course we would take on f7 first. But okay. So there's no going back, there's only going forward. And somehow black, who's played very poorly every single move, found the best move in this position, and somehow for the rest of the game he plays okay. But he played here, which is objectively the best, but it's still losing. This is kind of the trickier move, so we should look at this first. And I'll ask the audience, what do you think white should play here in this position? All right, so we don't have queen h5.
No, F4.
F4? F4 is part of the right idea, and it's a pretty good move. The moves F4 and bishop c1 are very good, but actually the strongest is just to play queen g4. When they take away h5 from our queen, we go to the next strongest square, which is g4. Question?
I'm also thinking of queen d2.
Queen d2? Threatening discoveries?
Yes.
All right. I'll not get discovered. All right. Yeah, it's a thing. All right, but it's better to go here because you are threatening a pretty serious check. Just the simple queen h4 is very strong. So it's so strong, in fact, that black should stop the queen from going there with knight f5. Now, what white would like to do, he can't do it, but he would like to check and say checkmate, but it's not checkmate. So if the knight were protected, we would be threatening checkmate. And all right, we got these two pawn moves and the bishop move to protect the pawn, so our queen can go back with the check. And and these two win. F4 and bishop c1, they both win. This is a very winning move, but best is actually f4. So we're threatening check and mate. Also, sometimes the rook will come. And the only way black can stop the threat of queen h3 is by giving up the f7 square, which is a royal fork. So, all right, so in that line, you just lose your queen. All right. So yeah, so that's enough to know that if you have to play this move, you can't put your king on h6. Okay, so this was tried in the game. So again, I'll ask the audience, what move do you think white should play here? Yes?
Queen g4.
Queen g4, excellent. Right, so we put our queen on the most active square. So black says to white, you need to get your queen off the g file. He played the move f5. All right, please, I beseech you, get off the g file. And white says no. So black tries again.
This becomes a disadvantage, isn't it?
Yes, you are allowed to take here if you wish. He probably didn't do it because it's important to control the f6 square. We don't want the king to run away. The biggest thing in these positions is containing the king, because if he runs away, then we might not have a discovery, and we might not actually checkmate him. The pawn is quite good on e5, and going here threatening a discovery is very tough to meet. All right, so he tried again, but the queen just stays on the g file. So now black realizes that this check is going to pick up the queen if he doesn't do anything. So he moves the queen, allowing the discovery, but this time you're not winning the queen at the end. All right, so the king went back. And now white is begging for you to just take this rook, where things are still bad for black, but you're not getting immediately checkmated. And that's the key. And then the white move here is kind of hard for a lot of people to find. We've been looking just at the one quadrant over here on the king side, but there's a whole big board going on. So we don't want to lose focus. So I'll ask you, because a lot of people have had trouble finding this move here, what should white play in this position?
He captures the pawn and gives a check.
All right, capture here?
No, sorry. I think I would lose the knight.
Right, yeah, black will just take the knight. It's still very scary, but okay. But white has a much simpler move. Yeah?
Knight takes
All right, knight takes g7. All right. I can pin you. What else can I do? I can do a discovered attack on your queen. But okay, maybe I just pin you. You have this check. You also have this check, but I can win your knight. It's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah, but white actually has quite a simple move here that just wins convincingly.
Who wins, is it?
Yeah. So it's one of these pieces, but it's not actually on the king side. One of these pieces goes to the queen side.
What if you give a check with a knight again?
Which square?
Check with a knight on G5.
G5?
Uh-huh.
All right, so if I go back, am I escaping?
Oh, I might give him the diagonal open.
Yeah.
The entire file open.
Yeah, I assume, so I go back. And if you try to mate me, sometimes I have like a queen that I can protect. I might lose my knight. So I gotta be careful here how I defend. Yeah.
It may open up a lot of chances for it.
Yeah, I gotta not get mated, but you know, I don't want to lose my knight either. This would be terrible. Whoops. What's that?
What is a simple move you said then? Knight
Yeah, what is a simple move? Okay, in this position, white played here. With at least two threats that you see. Most people probably see this threat and this threat. But the even bigger threat is checkmate. So black couldn't decide, should I lose my queen or should I get checkmated? So he resigned. It's a tough choice. It's a tough choice. If you resign, you get to go home and you don't have to play this position anymore. So that's what he played. You think you'd lose your queen? Yeah, he could do that. But then you got to suffer for a long time. When you resign, you get to go to Froyo. You know, you get to chill out. All right, it was a tough choice. Okay, knight f6. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. Only if it lets me. That's the only if it lets me.
I mean, you should try it.
All right. Let's see. All right, somehow I figured it out. Which knight move do you want to make?
Knight
Knight
f6.
f6.
That's the only try.
All right. I at least have this check. Also, I can probably just win this pawn, and you're in a pin. So I'm attacking all of your pieces.
Yeah, well, I'm losing the queen, we're getting checked. So then
Yeah.
I'm losing, but at least there's.
I mean, what do you? I mean, yeah.
Try. Gotta, like,
Yeah,
so
it's.
that's what I would do.
yeah. You can at least try something and
Hopefully I would get in this position.
and only lose a lot of material. But he was playing Steinitz, so I guess he knew what was up, so he resigned. All right, and now there's one game that I want to show you. That I guess it'll be the last game that I show you guys. Mostly I want to show it just because the tactical finish at the end is so cool, and this game is not well known. So let's get to it. All right. The Rui Lopez. All right. Right. So the most common, you know, A6, knight F6. Steinitz like to play D6, but in this game it was the Schliemann variation, the most aggressive. So black has opened up this diagonal for which sometimes will be danger for his king, but he's hoping to get all of his pieces out really fast, and he's hoping, you know, to go start a kingside attack on white. So he's offering white a pawn so that he can get a lead in development and take the center. White did not accept at first. Okay, but now he accepts when black doesn't have a chance to play e4. All right. Then let's see what happened here. Okay, black developed. White castled, black castled, and white decided he was going to win a pawn here, which you don't have to do if you want to be safer. But okay, he took. Black took back, and white took this pawn. And we'll count after this bishop takes here to see who has how many pawns. So you'll notice it's 4 on 4 on the queen side, and 3 on 2 on the king side. So white is up a pawn. Black has quite a lot of compensation here, though. All of these pieces are developed, and they make a lot of sense and leave a strong impression going towards the white king. So it is pretty tough. All right. White noticed that, and he wanted to start trading some pieces, eliminating some of the key attackers. He played here. He's trying to get that dark squared bishop, and he wants to trade as many pieces as possible to eliminate the possibility of an attack. So black's plan was to get all of his pieces out as quickly as possible. So instead of moving the bishop immediately, he just defended it with the queen. All right. White attacked the bishop and protected the knight on e5. And black did not move the bishop. What move did black play that's not moving the bishop? Yeah, which one? All right, he played rook a to d8. This rook is pretty good on the f-file. So white played a very sneaky move, c3. The idea is to play queen b3, and if your king moves, you take the bishop. And if you block something like bishop e6, then the queen is coming down here and starting to gobble up all the pawns over there. It's still quite dangerous, but black decided, all right, I'm not going to let you get away with that. And now you'll see white's about to make a big mistake. He plays here, hoping to eat the bishop. But okay, we have our trio. Though this game is a lot more complex, due mostly to the bishop here on e3, which will not be taken by the queen in the game. Instead, we have our Greek gift. So hopefully everybody knows the first move. Bishop takes h2. All right, so white takes the bishop. And now the knight comes in. After the bishop sacrifices, the knight comes in to g4 with check. So once more, we have 4 moves. And fortunately, in this case, 2 of them are very quick to refute. Okay, king h1 is the same as always, and checkmate. All right. And walking into a discovery is bad news. Yeah, a lot of people like to take a pawn and then a queen, but I prefer to take a bishop and then a queen. So you can take the bishop and then take the queen. So that's that's one way to play. Okay, so there's 2 moves to look at, going to g1 and going to g3. King g1 was played in the game, so first we'll have a look at king g3, and it's quite tricky now. Normally, we put our queen on g4, but there's a bishop on e3 that will take our queen, so that the normal move doesn't work here. So actually what black wants to do is put a queen on d6, but of course there's a problem. There's a knight, exactly. So how should black kick the knight away so that he can play queen d6? Yes?
B5.
b5, exactly. And the computer thinks this check on d6 is so important that it wants to just defend the knight and let you take it, because now you're controlling d6. That check is pretty bad. But if you defend like a human and you just move your knight,
There's the check.
black gets to play his check, exactly. Okay, white can defend. And the queen gets to go to the g file after all. So it took him a longer maneuver, but you made it. And these discoveries are very annoying. You can try to get out of them, but every move wins. You can put a bishop back here and do some rook stuff. It's actually game over for white. Your king is not going to live forever on h4. All right. So because of that, he went backwards. And now, black played a move that actually loses, but it looks so natural. He played here, the losing move. The problem is, white has this defensive resource, which was played. So in this position, now that we understand that white is going to play bishop f4 to defend the h2 square, what can black play in this position before he plays queen h4? We need to prepare it. You know?
H6 to push G5, kicking off the bishop.
H6 to play G5, kicking a bishop? What bishop is it kicking?
When the bishop moves to F4, you just take it.
Right, so the one, right, so one problem is, okay, so you're saying if he plays it immediately,
Yeah.
then you're playing G5?
Yeah.
And then, you know, his bishop goes somewhere, and now unfortunately your queen can't even come over here. Because you blocked the file for you blocked that diagonal for your queen. So that's not it, unfortunately. All right. All right. So the person walking in the door right now knows what black should play here, knowing that it's not queen h4.
I won't see this again.
All right. Has anybody figured it out? It's tricky. All right. When the bishop can go to f4, you want to make sure that you can take it with a rook. So we need to get the bishop out of the way. And we can move the bishop and make a threat on the knight. And then, okay, of course, if you move the knight, okay, our queen's coming in, and it's going to be game over. So, all right. So, but instead in the game, this move was played, and white correctly found the right resource. All right. So black really wants to take the bishop. So he moves the bishop out of the way, and he's threatening to take the bishop. And white played a seemingly very natural move in the game, but this move actually loses. White has to find queen d2, the only move that wins. You really want to keep a piece here. It's very important, because then you're guarding the crucial h2 square. Okay, in the game though, bishop g3 was played. And now, oh, Joe already knows it. Joe already knows it. A spectacular move was played in this position. So we'll see who's the tactical genius in here. And this is the real reason I love this game, because this next move is truly a beautiful move. Yeah, I know Joe sees it.
Well, you showed it to me
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
But I did find it in it.
yeah. All right, it is a truly brilliant move here. All right, all right, black does not move the queen. It's a queen sacrifice. So what move is not moving the queen? Yeah, do you know?
Bishop F3.
Bishop f3. Very interesting. What if I take you?
I take your queen.
Okay. And then I take your bishop. And now I have more pieces than you. And your attack's gone. So that was unfortunate.
Why didn't you take my rook?
Why didn't I take your rook? I can take your rook too. So it's this position. And we're going to call on Joe Garnier for the brilliant answer.
Yeah, I want to play rook takes f2.
Rook takes f2. Right. A brilliant move. So he's sacrificing the queen, which was accepted in the game. All right. And now black actually has mate in 3 moves. All right. Does anybody not named Joe Garnier see mate in 3? Yeah? So you're suggesting, I'll try to move very carefully so it doesn't mess up. Rook takes f1. All right, I'm in check, so I'll take the rook.
You reroute the other rook to F8.
All right,
Protecting the rook and attacking the queen.
sure. All right, I'll probably move my queen. And you didn't mate me in 3 moves. All right. All right, so let's try again. And let's see. The machine wanted me to play this move. So let's go ahead and play it. All right, white has 1 move. And he's walking into a discovery. And now it's mate in 2. And now you see it, you look excited. What is it?
Rook
Rook d2?
Yeah.
It's true. That is true. I assume I'll play here.
Then bishop takes.
Right, and I'm not. You're winning lots of material, but I'm not. I'm not mated. So that's the good news for me. I can even also, take your rook. Well, I'm in check. All right, so I'll take the bishop. Okay, I didn't get mated.
And you were down.
That's my big goal is to not get mated in 2 moves. All right. Meredith sees mate in 2. I guarantee it. Just walking in, doesn't matter. All right. Does anybody see it? Yes, excellent. Rook h2. Again, 1 move for white. I think I can find it. And now it's mate in 1. And surprisingly, a lot of people can't find this mate in 1. Yes?
Rook h1 checkmate.
Rook h1, checkmate. Yeah, notice how the knight and the bishop are preventing the king from running away. Okay, so that's the Greek gift for you.
I think the best move for white.
It's over. It's all over. It was checkmate. All right. So, all right, that's the. Okay, sure. All right. So thanks you guys for coming. Hopefully you learned something about the Greek gift, and you won't panic whenever it's played on the board and just resign, because you want to investigate. There's 4 moves you got to look at, but okay, it's one of the coolest and oldest sacrifices of all time.